Pat Acosta is a survivor of domestic violence. She says her husband began abusing her after their first child was born.
In the pregnancy, everything was fine. He was very supportive. And when I had my first child, that's when the first incident occurred. And he slapped me, and I just didn't know how to react, didn't say anything to anyone. And a lot of people that know about domestic violence, it is a hidden epidemic. No one wants to talk about it. So I kind of immediately merged into that personality, withdrew myself, isolated myself from a lot of things, and the abuse kept getting worse and worse.
Acosta says the abuse continued for over 4 years before she sought help.
When I started realizing that I was becoming a different person, I had lost my identity. I was very bitter with myself. I was always very angry. That was not my personality. I started becoming verbally abusive to my children.
Acosta now works as a victim's advocate to help those suffering from domestic violence, providing services that weren't available to her in the 80s when she needed them. Dona County District Attorney Mark D'Antonio says he hopes Victims' Rights Week helps people learn about the services available when they report a crime.
Victims suffer severe emotional trauma. And some of the victims will tell you in their own words that this can last years without the proper counseling and informational resources that could help these people. They suffer. So one of the reasons we want to put this together is to make people aware there are these programs, there are these resources.
Pat Acosta says advocates help victims through the process, giving them options and letting them make their own decisions.
And I think there's nothing more empowering for them to know what's available and for them to make a decision. So when we talk about advice, you don't want to give advice to a victim that sometimes she might not be ready. We know for a fact that a lot of the times this is the men that they love. This is the people that they wanted to make a family with. So when we start telling them, you should leave them or you should do that, rather than listening and just providing support, that's really what we need to do. So I wouldn't use the word advice. Just provide options, become more educated, provide support. And support might be very different. A victim might be ready to leave, go to the shelter. Another victim might say, no, he's going to change, because there's different reasons why women stay. It could be fear, it could be hope, it could be love.
D'Antonio says the victim advocates act as a friend throughout the trial process, providing support and explaining legal information.
These victim advocates are specially trained to literally hold the victim's hand during what are a very confusing and complicated trial process. So they will literally walk you through step by step before it starts, and they won't leave your side until the trial or whatever, or the prosecution is over. Not only do they give you information and insight into what's going on, but they'll be actually your advocates to make sure that if you need restraining orders or anything of that nature, they can help you do that as well.
Acosta says testifying against their abuser can be trying for victims.
The victim advocate, I think, plays the tremendous role in supporting the victim so that the victim can get encouraged. A lot of people don't understand that it's very difficult for a victim to follow through. A lot of the times in cases, the evidence, and if we don't have a victim speaking, well, I think that if we start working together to provide even more support, victims will start coming forth.
D'Antonio says victim advocates are key to helping victims take the stand.
Our victim advocates are so empathetic and so well trained in how to deal with those issues. And not only here at the DA's office, but also at law enforcement agencies as well, that in the end, we very rarely have a witness that just refuses or too timid to testify. Because with the proper talking and counseling and made aware of the information, so what's not to fear, and know that she's protected by the DA's office and law enforcement, I would say in 98% of the cases, the trial goes forward to a successful prosecution.
D'Antonio says law enforcement has a responsibility to provide counseling services for victims. For KRWG, I'm Samantha Sonner.